Nintendo Switch has been home to some of the most memorable and controversial Pokemon games ever made. From bold reinventions to safe remakes, this era of Pokemon has had its highs, lows, and plenty of heated debate. Today, I'm going to be ranking every mainline Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch from worst to best. The ranking will be based on gameplay, innovation, replay value, and how much they push the franchise forward. Let's jump into the list. At number 5, we've got Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the long-awaited Gen 4 remakes that sadly fell flat for many fans. Now, don't get me wrong, Sinnoh is a beloved region, and although this game ended up last on my list, I still thoroughly enjoyed my playthrough of it. However, with that being said, the original Diamond and Pearl introduced some iconic Pokemon, an amazing story, and arguably one of the best champions in the entire series. But I feel like these remakes played it way too safe. Instead of trying to reimagine Sinnoh for the modern era like Oras did with Hoenn, BDSP opted for what was essentially just a one-to-one recreation, right down to the outdated mechanics, other than the addition of the Grand Underground. Although I personally didn't hate it, the chibi art style was controversial. Many fans felt like it just didn't do the epic tone of Sinnoh justice, and that's fair. The battles for the most part were pretty easy, the lack of platinum content was disappointing for many, and let's just be honest, it felt like a game made for nostalgia, not improvement. The Grand Underground was one of the few bright spots though. It added a fun element of exploration and hidden Pokemon, but it just wasn't enough to carry the whole experience. If they were going to go for the one-to-one recreation route, I would have much rather just gotten the original Sinnoh games ported to the Switch. But this game is not without some bright spots. We had the Grand Underground, which was at the very least something new and somewhat innovative, and the game performed relatively well on the Switch without any major lag or other problems that Pokemon games have tended to have on the Switch. Overall, in a generation of innovation, BDSP felt more like a regression, and that's why it comes in last. Coming in at number 4 is Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, the most beginner-friendly Pokemon games on the Switch and arguably the most charming. These games reimagine the original Kanto journey with stunning HD visuals and a casual, catch-focused mechanic inspired by Pokemon Go. And while that choice divided longtime fans, it did bring a fresh take that worked surprisingly well. No wild battles meant faster pacing and less grind. Partner Pokemon like Pikachu or Eevee felt like real companions, and the interaction features such as petting, dressing up, and combo attacks gave the game a personality of its own. But the simplicity that gave it its charm is also its biggest weakness. For veteran players, the lack of challenge and depth was definitely noticeable. Team building didn't really matter as much, the post-game was minimal, and even gym battles felt kind of underwhelming. I will admit the game was fun for what it was and definitely served its purpose as a gateway for the Pokemon franchise to come to the Switch, but overall the game just lacked a real challenge. Your starter Pokemon could literally solo the entire game, and it wasn't even that hard to do. But the game's charm and uniqueness does earn at some points, as well as the overall Pokemon concept that I believe this game did rather well, with even the ability to ride your own Pokemon around. That was pretty sick. Nonetheless, as an entry point for younger players or returning fans from Pokemon Go, Let's Go was a successful experiment. It showed Game Freak was willing to take risks, even if they didn't fully stick the landing. In third place, we have Scarlet and Violet, the 9th generation games that finally brought us the open world Pokemon experience we've all been dreaming about. These games changed the formula completely. No real routes, no completely linear story. You choose your path, be it Victory Road, Starfall Street, or the Path of Legends. For the first time ever, Pokemon gave us true exploration freedom, and it made a huge impact on how we played. The open world environment was surprisingly really well done and gave you a lot of flexibility and amazing team building potential. I truly felt as though I could explore this region unshackled by a linear story, which was an amazing feeling. Additionally, terrestrialization was a neat gimmick. Not as flashy as Dynamax or Megas, but much more strategic. Changing a Pokemon's type mid-battle added new layers of depth, especially to online competitive. And the story was surprisingly emotional. Arven's storyline in particular hit way harder than I expected. I was genuinely invested in him and his character throughout the entirety of his storyline, and that was by far my favorite part of the entire game. His character felt like it had real depth, and this type of storyline is something I hope Game Freak can implement in their future games. But then, there's the elephant in the room, the performance issues. Scarlet and Violet are some of the buggiest Pokemon games ever released. Between the glitches, crashes, and awkward textures, it was just impossible to ignore, and it really held the games back from reaching their full potential. Additionally, I feel as though Team Star left a lot to be desired as far as being memorable goes, and other than my GOAT Larry, love that guy, a lot of the gym leaders in Elite Four were rather forgettable. The whole premise of the Paradox Pokemon was really cool, and the exploration it added was fun, but overall I felt like the DLCs left a fair bit to be desired. Overall, these games were really a victim of bad performance, but still, the creativity and fun factor were high enough to land it in the top 3. If Game Freak compared this ambition with technical polish, they will be unstoppable. At number 2, we've got Sword and Shield, the first new generation Pokemon games on the Nintendo Switch. These games were a huge turning point. With the wild area, they introduced dynamic camera control and free exploration. While not quite open world, it was a massive step toward that direction. The wild area gave the franchise a breath of fresh wind that was desperately needed. The Galar region brought a fun European-inspired flair, and the gym challenge felt like a sporting event, complete with stadium crowds, music, and hype. It made every badge feel like a real achievement. And Dynamaxing, while not as strategic as other gimmicks, at least brought some serious spectacle. And Gigantamax gave some older Pokemon some amazing new forms and viability that was really cool and refreshing to see. Additionally, max raid battles were a complete game changer for this franchise. I would literally grind these out for hours, whether it be to catch a rare Pokemon, shiny hunt, or just to participate in a really fun and cooperative multiplayer experience that the Pokemon franchise had never really seen prior to these. I really cannot overstate how much max raid battles did for this franchise. And Sword and Shield also had the best post-launch support of any Switch Pokemon game, hands down. The Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra expansions added dozens of returning Pokemon, brand new areas, fun stories, and co-op battles in the Dynamax adventures. It was Game Freak's first real dive into DLC, and it worked very well. I thoroughly enjoyed the entirety of both DLCs and all the new content they brought, as well as the ability to visit the DLCs on a new save file extremely early in the game. Yes, Dexit was controversial. The lack of full Pokédex stung, but in hindsight, Sword and Shield laid a strong foundation that future Pokemon game could continue to build on. And at number 1, the best Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch, Pokémon Legends Arceus. This game changed everything. It's the boldest experiment Game Freak has made in decades, and it paid off. Set in ancient Hisui, the early version of Sinnoh, Legends Arceus redefined how we interact with Pokemon. Sneaking, throwing Pokeballs in real time, aggressive wild Pokemon, rideable mounts, seamless transitions into battle. It felt alive in a way Pokemon games rarely do. The crafting system added resource management. The missions gave structure. The Pokédex actually felt like research. And the story, way deeper and more immersive than expected, with themes of fear, tradition, and discovering the unknown. This may be just me being bad at video games, but I truly found the boss battles in this game challenging, and more importantly so, rewarding. They actually felt like boss battles and all had unique styles of battle for each boss, giving a fresh take on Pokemon bosses. Additionally, the antagonists in this game had actual depth for the first time in what feels like a very long time. I found myself actually able to sympathize and understand where they were coming from, and it just gave me a much deeper appreciation for the characters and the story as a whole. The game's many quests and side quests also gave you plenty of gameplay time, apart from just completing your Pokédex and battling the alpha Pokemon. While it wasn't perfect, the graphics were kind of basic and the town left a bit to be desired, the gameplay was so engaging that it did not matter. Legends Arceus reminded us what Pokemon can be when the developers are allowed to experiment, and that's why it topped this list. And now, all eyes are on what comes next, Pokémon Legends Z-A. Set in a futuristic Lumio city, Legends Z-A looks like it will continue the innovative spirit of Arceus, but with a twist. Mega Evolution is finally back, real-time battles are evolving, and the idea of exploring a vertical city-based world has never been done in the franchise. We're talking rooftop traversal, new mission structures, dynamic battle cooldowns, and maybe even urban-themed regional form. If Legends Arceus reinvents the past, Legends Z-A might reshape the future. So if you loved Arceus as much as I did, buckle up. The Switch might still have one more masterpiece left in it. So that's my full ranking of every mainline Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch. Agree? Disagree? Drop your personal rankings in the comments and let's keep the conversation going. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more Pokemon content, especially as we head towards the launch of Pokemon Legends Z-A. See you all next time.